I met Claire Dyer in the 1970s when we were both teachers at Central High School. It was the 1970s, and even though those were the days of black and white photos, she dressed colorfully. She had a smile on her face. She was eager to meet the students. She was challenged by ideas. She loved her students and she loved her subject area of literature and humanities. Eventually, we both retired, and in the retirement, she wrote poetry, wrote a lot of poetry, and would read it to friends in our group. I devoted my time to photography, and at some point, we decided why not combine our interests into a book. She would select poems that she liked, and I would find photographs that I felt complemented the poems that she did. It was a labor of love, and we worked on it for several months. And in May of 2018, Delta of Riches finally hit the press. The title was hers, the picture was mine from an experience in Mexico. The first page of the book, we had our artistic statements where we both tried to explain what it was that caused our love of these different media. The first poem that I selected for the book was Claire's poem, Do You Remember? A very special poem to me. He kite-tailed his buddy across the field, dancing zigzags in his wake. The two boys bounded into summer, ecstatic with the new freedom. Oh, were there a way to reclaim that day? Do you remember in your churning legs, in your wheeling arms, in those laughing keep-up gasps, those happy times across fields? Time bevels, then dulls, the sharp spear of youth. What a beautiful poem, and it brings us back to the days when we were young and when the time of life was endless. I'm not going to read each poem, but I encourage you to pause this video at any point, at all points, and read the poems and contemplate on the meaning that Claire had for you. I'm also not going to comment on why she wrote these particular poems. All of them had a basis in events in her life. But it's my feeling that a poem is for everyone. We are to apply the meanings of the words of the poet to our own lives. And I'm not sure how much good it would be to explain why a poet wrote what he or she did. She abides on the shore of her loss, reaches deep, deep past the place of her pain, once again to frame in psychological ceremonial the craft of her courage, rouses in pinprick the instrument of her task, and slowly, patiently plies in small capillary weave, stitch by stitch, word by word, along the contours of the flooding aortic maw, seams, closes the wound to still another healing scar. What a powerful poem about loss and healing, and using not only words but the symbolism of sewing to create this. Lassitude at low tide. I'll read just the first stanza. She lies in the hammock, swooning in the heavy air, near to insensibility, faint of thought, bereft of any intent, to rouse to pinpoint the desultory muse. Claire loved to write about writing, and this was one of those poems. I love the poem Moving On because it expresses what all of us at a certain age had felt. As we moved through life, there was work, there were children, and now what is left? Beautiful poem. A life shrunk to a closet of odd clothes, sap stained from desert days. Amid the brush, faded summer sun in those 3-month passages with time in her hands. For vigorous winnowing, triangular rips in fabric, to show for her efforts, she sits on the floor of her tiny room, collecting little pieces left of big ideas. Lean out of the present moment, away, away, conjure that journey to another time, place. Run your hands through the river pebbles in the basket. Leaf through the album of the family tree. Browse through the closet for some old clothes. Leave by the back door. Hike to an old-timey route. Away, away. Claire loved music. I remember one time she came to a concert of our church choir, and as she was listening to the music, she had her book to sketch out a poem. Later, she joined several of us for dinner at a restaurant, and she kept working on that poem. I don't know if this was the poem, but she loved music, and it inspired her in her writing. I often think that she must have had music playing, as she was writing. Her signature poem in the book appears last, Delta of Riches. He rummages through the treasure trove of photos, stashed in his personal archives. Like turning rich soil to breathing freshly, he reignites his passions to energies of new purpose. In broad scope, depictions of nature, a rolling green swath of land, a tumble of forests, garnishing the sides of a cascading waterfall, an amber sea brushing a dark shore, permutations of sky, dramatically laced or serenely layered, jewel cities, fireflies in darkness. Scenes momentous or simple, unendingly evocative of life's narratives. A young girl wrapped in a party dress, a hunched calligrapher wielding a lingual brush, an old man with a genial wrinkled face, hyped against a weathered boat needing repair, a dancer, limbs gleaming white abstractions in a dark room, a protester in a crowd, fist raised full of intention, or a quiet face musing with distant memory. The savoring eye of the master harvests, then floods the mind with the shining truth of our common humanity. The poem is about me, about the project. She references me looking for pictures and what those pictures were about. But the project is really about Claire and her vision and the poetry that she left behind. Rest in peace, Claire Dyer.